Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, mapping new systems at the edge of human territory. It was quiet work, but Jake enjoyed the peace of deep space exploration. The Liberty was not a warship. She carried scientific equipment, survey drones, and a crew of 200 researchers and support staff. Her mission was simple: find new worlds that humans could settle and resources they could use. Jake had commanded exploration vessels for 15 years, and he loved discovering what lay beyond the next star. First Officer Lisa Carter walked up to him with a cup of coffee. Lisa had served with Jake for 5 years, and she knew he always got restless during the quiet parts of their missions. She was a good officer, smart and dependable, with short brown hair and a ready smile. "Anything interesting on the sensors today?" Lisa asked, handing him the coffee. Jake shook his head. "Same as yesterday, empty space and distant stars. We should reach the Kepler system tomorrow morning. Maybe we will find something worth studying there." Chief Engineer Danny Walsh was checking the ship's systems at his station nearby. Danny was a big man with calloused hands who could fix anything on the ship. He had grown up on Mars and joined the space service to see the galaxy. Jake trusted him completely with the Liberty's engines and life support systems. Communications Officer Betty Rodriguez sat at her station, monitoring radio signals from nearby space. Betty was young and eager, fresh out of the academy with top marks in alien languages. She spent most of her time listening to background radiation and cosmic noise, hoping to find signs of intelligent life. Jake was finishing his coffee when Betty suddenly sat up straight at her console. Her eyes went wide as she adjusted her headset and checked her instruments twice. "Captain," Betty said, her voice tight with excitement, "I'm picking up a transmission. It is coming from the edge of the system, and it is definitely artificial. The signal is strong and directed right at us." Jake set down his coffee cup and moved to Betty's station. "What kind of transmission? Are you sure it is not from another human ship?" Betty shook her head quickly. "No, sir, the signal pattern is completely different from anything in our database. The language is unknown, but the computer is working on translation. Sir, I think we just made first contact." Lisa joined them at the communications station. "How long until we have a translation?" "Maybe 10 minutes, Betty replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "The signal has mathematical patterns that our computers can use to figure out the basic language structure." Jake felt his heart beating faster. First contact with an alien species was every explorer's dream. In all their years of space travel, humans had found empty worlds and ancient ruins, but never a living alien civilization. This could change everything. "Put the signal on the main screen as soon as you have a translation," Jake ordered. "And, record everything. If this is really first contact, Earth will want to see every second of it." Danny left his engineering station and joined the group around Betty's console. "Think they are friendly?" he asked. "We will know soon enough," Jake replied. He activated the ship's intercom. "All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We may have a situation developing." Within minutes, the bridge filled with the Liberty's department heads. Science Officer Dr. Kevin Brown arrived first, followed by Security Chief Maria Santos and Medical Officer Dr. Patricia White. They all gathered around the main viewing screen, waiting to see what the unknown aliens would look like. Betty's translation program finished its work with a soft chime. "Translation complete, Captain. The signal is coming through clearly now." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main viewing screen flickered, then showed the image of an alien creature unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its head was elongated, with large golden eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform covered in complex symbols and decorations. When the alien spoke, the computer's translation came through the bridge speakers in a cold, mechanical voice. "I am Admiral Keffer of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. I speak for His Supreme Majesty Emperor Vexthal, ruler of 10,000 worlds and master of the galaxy." Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. The alien's tone was formal and threatening. Like a judge reading a sentence, Admiral Kethver continued speaking. Your species has been expanding beyond your designated territory without permission from the Empire. This violation of galactic law cannot continue. You will immediately halt all expansion beyond your current borders and submit to Imperial taxation and regulation. The alien admiral paused, letting his words sink in. His golden eyes seemed to stare directly at Jake through the screen. However, His Majesty is merciful. To demonstrate the futility of resistance, I offer your species one chance to understand your position in the galaxy. I challenge your greatest warships to a demonstration of naval might. Bring your most powerful vessels and face the Imperial fleet in honorable combat. The image of Admiral Kethver was replaced by scenes of massive alien warships. The Zephyrian vessels were enormous, easily 2 miles long and bristling with weapon systems. Their hulls were covered in armor plating that gleamed like polished metal. Energy shields flickered around them like soap bubbles made of light. Behold the might of the Empire, the Admiral's voice continued over the images. 12 dreadnoughts of the Imperial Navy await your challenge. Each vessel carries 5,000 warriors and enough firepower to destroy a moon. Your primitive ships will serve as an example to other species who might consider defying Imperial will. The images faded, and Admiral Kethver's face returned to the screen. You have 3 standard days to assemble your fleet and meet us at the coordinates I am transmitting. Failure to appear will be considered an act of cowardice, and the Empire will respond accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Jake stared at the empty screen, processing what he had just heard. An alien empire was demanding humanity's surrender and threatening war if they refused. Betty broke the silence first. Captain, should I send a response? Jake looked around at his crew. Dr. Brown was pale and nervous. Security Chief Santos had her hand resting on her sidearm. Medical Officer White was shaking her head in disbelief, but Lisa was trying not to smile. Danny was scratching his beard and looking thoughtful. Betty had turned away from her console to hide what looked suspiciously like a grin. Jake activated his communications console and sent a response to the Zephyrian Admiral. He kept his expression serious and professional. Admiral Kethver, this is Captain Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. I have received your message and will forward it to my superiors immediately. I accept your challenge on behalf of humanity. We request the full 3 days to prepare our forces for this demonstration. Jake ended the transmission and turned to face his crew. As soon as the channel closed, Danny let out a low chuckle. Did you see the size of those ships? Danny asked. They must use half their power just to move all that armor around. Lisa nodded, no longer hiding her amusement. They look impressive, but I bet they turn like freight haulers. All that bulk would make them sitting ducks for a fast attack. Betty was grinning openly now. Did anyone else notice they called this a demonstration of naval might? They think this is going to be some kind of formal duel with rules and honor codes. Jake felt himself starting to smile as well. Better send a message to Earth Command immediately. Tell them we have been challenged to a space battle by an alien empire, and we need someone to show up and teach them some manners. Dr. Brown looked confused. Captain, should we not be more concerned? Those ships look incredibly powerful. Jake clapped the science officer on the shoulder. Do not worry, Doctor. I have a feeling our friends in the Navy are going to find this very entertaining. Admiral Frank Peterson sat in his office at Luna Naval Command, reading Captain Morrison's report for the 3rd time. The message had arrived 6 hours ago through the emergency communication network, and Frank still could not believe what he was reading. Frank was a veteran of 30 years in the Earth Navy. He had commanded destroyers, cruisers, and battleships throughout his career. He had fought space pirates, rescued stranded colonists, and helped establish humanity's presence among the stars. But he had never dealt with anything like this. An alien empire was demanding humanity's surrender and challenging them to a space battle. Frank had seen the recordings of the Zephyrian ships, and they were indeed impressive. Each dreadnought was a floating fortress, built for intimidation and overwhelming firepower. Frank's assistant, Lieutenant Commander Nancy Phillips knocked on his office door and entered with a cup of coffee. Nancy had worked with Frank for 5 years and could read his moods better than anyone. "The Joint Chiefs are ready for your briefing, Admiral," Nancy said. "Fleet Commander Barnes is already in the conference room, along with General Martinez and Dr. Clark." Frank nodded and stood up from his desk. "Thank you, Nancy. This should be an interesting meeting." The conference room was filled with the most senior military officers in the solar system. Fleet Commander Helen Barnes commanded the entire human space fleet. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had earned her position through brilliant tactical thinking. General Paul Martinez led the Colonial Marine Corps. He was responsible for ground forces on human colonies and space stations. Paul was a big man with scars on his hands from his early days as a frontline soldier. Dr. Susan Clark ran the Naval Research Division. She was the smartest person Frank had ever met, with degrees in physics, engineering, and xenobiology. Susan designed the weapons and ships that kept humanity safe in a dangerous galaxy. Frank activated the main screen and showed the group the recordings from Captain Morrison. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts appeared on screen in all their massive glory. "Gentlemen," Dr. Clark, Frank began, "we have a situation. An alien empire has challenged humanity to what they call a demonstration of naval might. They expect us to show up with our biggest warships and get destroyed in front of the galaxy." Helen Barnes leaned forward in her chair. "What do we know about their technology?" Dr. Clark activated her tablet and pulled up detailed scans of the Zephyrian vessels. "Based on the recordings, their ships follow a very traditional design philosophy. Maximum armor, maximum firepower, maximum intimidation factor. Each dreadnought masses approximately 12 million tons and carries enough weapons to level a city." Paul Martinez whistled softly. "Those are some serious warships." "How many are we talking about?" 12 dreadnoughts, Frank replied. "Plus whatever support vessels they have that did not appear in the recording." Helen studied the ship specifications on her tablet. "Dr. Clark, what are their weaknesses?" Susan smiled and highlighted several areas on the Zephyrian ship design. "Plenty of weaknesses, actually. First, they are huge and slow. Ships that big cannot maneuver quickly or change direction without massive energy expenditure. Second, they rely entirely on energy shields for defense. Their armor is impressive, but it is static protection." She switched to a different view of the alien vessels. "Third, their weapon systems are all designed for long-range bombardment. They expect to sit back and pound their enemies into scrap metal. They have very limited point defense systems for close-range combat." Frank nodded thoughtfully. "So they fight like the old battleships from Earth's history. Big, slow, and built to trade heavy punches at long range." "Exactly," Susan confirmed. "Their entire tactical doctrine is based on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They probably have not fought anyone who could challenge that approach for centuries." Helen Barnes was already working on her tablet, pulling up fleet deployment schedules. "Admiral Peterson, what kind of response are you thinking about?" Frank grinned. "I want to send them something they will never expect." "Helen, what do you have available for immediate deployment?" Helen scrolled through her fleet lists. "Most of our heavy cruisers are on patrol or escort duty. The battleship Washington is in dry dock for maintenance. The carrier groups are scattered across 3 different systems." She paused and looked up at Frank with a knowing smile. "But I do have the interceptor available. Captain Tony Hughes just finished training exercises with his crew." Paul Martinez looked confused. "The interceptor? That is just a frigate. You cannot send a single frigate against 12 alien dreadnoughts." Dr. Clark was already grinning. "Actually, General, the interceptor might be perfect for this job. She is fast, maneuverable, and carries the latest experimental weapon systems." Frank activated the main screen again and showed specifications for the UES interceptor. The ship was sleek and angular, designed for speed and agility rather than brute force. At only 800 meters long, she was tiny compared to the Zephyrian dreadnoughts. The interceptor represents everything those aliens do not understand about human warfare, Frank explained. She is fast enough to run circles around their dreadnoughts, tough enough to survive their weapons, and smart enough to exploit every weakness in their defenses. Helen was already sending messages to Captain Hughes. Tony is one of our best tactical commanders. If anyone can pull this off, it is him. Dr. Clark pulled up detailed specifications for the interceptor's weapons and defensive systems. The ship carries the new plasma pulse cannons we developed last year. They are much smaller than traditional ship weapons, but they can penetrate energy shields more effectively than conventional lasers. She switched to another screen showing the ship's defensive capabilities. Her armor is made from the latest composite materials. It is designed to deflect and absorb energy weapons rather than just resist them. And her electronic warfare suite can jam enemy targeting systems and communications. Frank studied the information on the screen. What about her crew? Helen checked her personnel files. Captain Hughes has 87 crew members, all highly trained. His tactical officer is Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster. She graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy and specializes in unconventional combat tactics. His weapons officer is Chief Petty Officer Rick Davis, Helen continued. Rick has 15 years of experience with ship-to-ship combat. He can hit a target the size of a baseball from 50,000 kilometers away. Paul Martinez was still looking skeptical. This still sounds like sending a speedboat to fight a fleet of battleships, Dr. Clark laughed. General, that is exactly what we are doing. And it is going to work because those aliens have never seen anything like human tactical doctrine. Frank activated the intercom and contacted Captain Hughes directly. Within minutes, Tony Hughes appeared on the main screen. He was a man in his 40s with calm eyes and graying hair at his temples. Admiral Peterson, Hughes said, I understand you have an interesting assignment for me. Frank smiled. Tony, how would you like to represent humanity in our first official space battle with an alien empire? Hughes raised an eyebrow. Just me, sir? Just you and the interceptor, Frank confirmed. The aliens are expecting a massive fleet engagement with hundreds of ships blazing away at each other. Instead, they are going to get a lesson in human creativity. Hughes was quiet for a moment, thinking through the implications. Sir, what are the rules of engagement? Helen Barnes answered that question. The aliens called this a demonstration of naval might. They want to show the galaxy that resistance to their empire is futile. Your job is to demonstrate that they are wrong. Dr. Clark added, Captain, we are not asking you to destroy their entire fleet. We want you to embarrass them. Show them that size and firepower are not everything in space combat. Hughes nodded slowly. I understand. When do we deploy? Frank checked the timeline. You have 2 days to reach the rendezvous coordinates. The aliens are expecting us to bring our biggest ships, so your arrival should come as quite a surprise. My crew and I will be ready, Admiral, Hughes said. This should be educational for everyone involved. After ending the communication with Hughes, Frank turned to address the group. Are we all in agreement that this is the right approach? Helen Barnes nodded firmly. The interceptor is perfect for this mission. She can outmaneuver anything the aliens have, and Tony Hughes is exactly the right captain to command her. Dr. Clark was already working on technical specifications. I want to send along some additional equipment upgrades. Nothing that will violate the spirit of their challenge, but some tools that might prove useful. Paul Martinez finally smiled. I have to admit, this is going to be interesting to watch. Those aliens have no idea what they are getting themselves into. Frank stood up from the conference table. Then it is settled. We send the interceptor to teach the Zephyrian Empire a lesson in human warfare. Nancy, please prepare a message for Captain Morrison. Tell him help is on the way and he should enjoy the show. Admiral Keffer stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Glory. Around him, 12 of the most powerful warships ever built by the Zephyrian Empire waited in perfect formation. Each vessel stretched over 2 miles in length and bristled with enough weapons to destroy entire planets, The Admiral was pleased with the display. The human species would learn today that resistance to the Empire was pointless. After their ships were destroyed, the survivors would return to their homeworlds and tell everyone about Imperial might. Kethver was old, even by Zephyrian standards. He had conquered 47 star systems for the Empire and destroyed the fleets of dozen species who dared to resist Imperial rule. His golden eyes had seen countless battles, and his forearms bore the ceremonial scars of a veteran warrior commander. Vorthik approached the Admiral with a status report. Vorthik was young and eager, with bright blue skin that marked him as coming from the warrior caste. He served as the Admiral's tactical advisor and had never seen a battle that lasted more than a few hours. "Admiral," Vorthik said, "all ships report ready for combat. Our scouts confirm that the designated battle zone is clear of asteroids and other hazards. We await the arrival of the human fleet." Kethver nodded and checked the time display. The humans had requested 3 days to prepare their forces, and those 3 days were nearly over. Soon the primitive aliens would arrive with their largest warships, hoping to somehow match Imperial firepower. "Have our intelligence officers learned anything new about human military capabilities?" Kethver asked. Vorthik activated his data tablet and scrolled through recent reports. "Very little, Admiral. The humans are a young species with limited space travel experience. Their largest ships appear to be cargo vessels and colony transports. We have detected no vessels larger than 2 kilometers in length." The Admiral was not surprised. Most primitive species built their first warships by converting civilian vessels and adding weapons. It was an inefficient approach that produced weak ships with limited combat capability. "What about their weapons technology?" Kethver continued. "Basic energy weapons, mostly lasers and particle beams," Vorthik replied. "Nothing that could penetrate our shield systems or armor plating. Their ships appear to rely on speed and numbers rather than individual firepower." Kethver walked to the main viewing screen and looked out at the empty space where the human fleet would soon appear. He expected to see dozens of small ships, perhaps even hundreds. The humans would try to overwhelm Imperial defenses through sheer quantity. It would not work, of course. Zephyrian shields could deflect thousands of weak energy beams, and their heavy plasma cannons could destroy multiple targets with each shot. The battle would be over quickly, with minimal Imperial casualties. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "I am detecting ships approaching from the edge of the system." Kethver returned to his command position. "Put the tactical display on the main screen. Let us see what the humans have brought us." The bridge's main viewing screen activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding space. A single contact appeared at the edge of sensor range, moving toward the Imperial fleet at moderate speed. Vorthik studied the display with confusion. "Admiral, sensors show only one vessel. Perhaps this is an advanced scout?" Kethver examined the contact more closely. The ship was small, barely visible on the tactical display next to the massive Imperial dreadnoughts. It was moving in a straight line toward the battle zone with no attempt at stealth or evasion. "Continue scanning," Kethver ordered. "The main fleet must be following behind this scout ship." Minutes passed as the single human vessel approached. The Imperial sensors swept the surrounding space repeatedly, searching for signs of additional ships. But no other contacts appeared on the display. The human ship entered the designated battle zone and came to a stop exactly 1,000 kilometers from the Imperial formation. It was a sleek vessel with clean lines and no obvious weapon systems. Compared to the massive Zephyrian dreadnoughts, it looked like a tiny insect. "Communications," Kethver called out. "Contact the human vessel." The main screen switched to show the bridge of the human ship. A middle-aged human male in a dark blue uniform sat in the command chair. His hair was brown with gray at the temples, and his eyes were calm and confident. "I am Captain Tony Hughes of the United Earthship Interceptor," the human said. "Admiral Kethver, I believe you requested a demonstration of naval might?" Kethver stared at the human captain in disbelief. "Captain Hughes, where is your fleet? Surely you have not come alone to face the Imperial Navy?" Hughes smiled slightly. Admiral, the UES interceptor represents humanity's complete response to your challenge. We are ready to begin the demonstration whenever you are. The Zephyrian admiral felt his confidence wavering. This made no sense according to any military doctrine he had ever studied. No species would send a single small ship against 12 dreadnoughts unless they had some kind of secret weapon, Commander. Vorthik leaned close to the admiral and spoke quietly. Sir, this must be some kind of trap. Perhaps the ship is equipped with a massive bomb or experimental weapon system. Kethver considered this possibility. Scan their vessel completely. Look for unusual energy signatures or weapon systems. The sensor operator worked frantically at his console, running every scanning protocol in the Imperial database. After several minutes, he looked up with confusion. Admiral, the human ship shows no unusual signatures. It appears to be a standard frigate with conventional weapons and propulsion systems. I detect no bombs, experimental weapons, or other threats. Kethver opened a channel to Captain Hughes again. Captain, I do not understand your tactics. Are you surrendering to Imperial authority? Hughes shook his head. Not at all, Admiral. We are here to participate in your demonstration of naval might. The interceptor is ready for combat whenever you choose to begin. The human captain's calm confidence was beginning to irritate Kethver. Either the humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Neither possibility made sense in this situation. Captain Hughes, Kethver said slowly, you realize that your single ship faces 12 Imperial dreadnoughts? Each of my vessels carries more firepower than your entire species has ever built. Hughes nodded thoughtfully. Yes, Admiral, I can see that your ships are quite impressive. But I think you may be surprised by what we have learned about space combat, Vorthik whispered urgently to the Admiral. Sir, perhaps they have allies hiding nearby? Other species who might support them? Kethver ordered another complete sensor sweep of the surrounding space. The Imperial sensors could detect ships at ranges of several light years, but they found nothing except empty space and distant stars. Captain Hughes, Kethver tried again, are you absolutely certain that no other human ships are coming to support you? Hughes consulted a display at his command station. Admiral, I can provide you with detailed sensor readings if you wish. The interceptor is alone in this system except for your fleet. The human captain paused and looked directly at Kethver through the communication link. Admiral, your empire issued a challenge for a demonstration of naval might. We have accepted that challenge in good faith. Are you having second thoughts? Kethver felt a flash of anger at the human's implied insult. No one questioned imperial resolve or military capability. But destroying such a small vessel with overwhelming force would look like cowardice to other species watching this encounter. The admiral faced an unexpected dilemma. Imperial honor demanded that he accept the challenge as presented, but common sense suggested that the humans must have some hidden advantage. Very well, Captain Hughes, Kethver decided. We will proceed with the demonstration. However, I will limit Imperial firepower to avoid unnecessary destruction. We seek to educate, not massacre. Hughes smiled more broadly. That is very generous of you, Admiral. How would you like to conduct this demonstration? Kethver thought quickly. He would send one dreadnought against the human frigate, using minimal power settings. The Imperial ship would disable the human vessel without destroying it, proving Imperial superiority while showing mercy to a brave but foolish enemy. Captain Hughes, the Imperial ship Dominator will engage your vessel in single combat. We will use training power levels to avoid destroying your ship. When you surrender, this demonstration will be complete. Hughes nodded politely. That sounds reasonable, Admiral. We are ready to begin when you are. Kethver closed the communication channel and turned to his tactical officer. Signal the Dominator to advance and engage the human ship. Use minimum power settings and attempt to disable, rather than destroy. The massive dreadnought Dominator moved forward from the Imperial formation. Its hull gleamed with polished armor plating, and energy shields flickered around it like colored lightning. Weapon ports opened along its sides, revealing plasma cannons. larger than the human ship's entire hull. Captain Hughes watched the approaching dreadnought on his tactical display. On the bridge of the interceptor, his crew prepared for combat with calm professionalism. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster coordinated defensive systems while Chief Petty Officer Rick Davis powered up the ship's weapons. "Well, people," Hughes said to his crew, "let's show them what humans have learned about space combat." Captain Tony Hughes watched the Imperial Dreadnought Dominator approach on his tactical display. The massive ship moved slowly but steadily toward the interceptor, its weapon ports glowing with barely contained energy. Hughes had studied the recordings of Zephyrian ships for 2 days during his journey to the battle zone, and he thought he understood their weaknesses. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster sat at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over the control panels. Amy was 32 years old, with short blonde hair and sharp green eyes. She had graduated from the Naval Academy with honors in tactical warfare and had spent 5 years developing new combat strategies. "Captain," Amy reported, "the alien ship is moving at roughly 200 meters per second. At that speed, it will take them 4 minutes to reach optimal firing range for their main weapons." Chief Petty Officer Rick Davis was at the weapons console, checking the interceptor systems one final time. Rick was a veteran of 15 years in the Space Navy, with graying hair and steady hands. He had fought pirates and raiders throughout human space and knew every trick of ship-to-ship combat. "All weapons ready, Captain," Rick announced. "Plasma pulse cannons are charged and targeting systems are active. Point defense lasers are online and tracking the enemy vessel." Hughes activated the ship's intercom to address his entire crew. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage an alien dreadnought that outweighs us by about 15,000 to 1. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and show these aliens what humans can do." The Dominator continued its steady advance, growing larger. On the viewing screen with each passing second, Hughes could see details of the alien ship now: massive armor plates, rows of weapon ports, and the shimmer of energy shields surrounding the entire vessel. "Amy," Hughes said calmly, "begin evasive maneuvers. Pattern Delta 7. Amy's hands moved across her controls, and the interceptor suddenly accelerated to full speed. The human ship shot forward like an arrow, then curved sharply to the right. In a sweeping arc that carried it around the approaching dreadnought, on the bridge of the Dominator, Captain Zolthek watched the human ship's movement with growing confusion. Zolthek was a veteran commander with 20 years of experience, but he had never seen a ship move like this. The human vessel was accelerating and turning at the same time, following a curved path that made no sense according to Imperial Tactical. "Doctrine, weapons officer," Zolthek ordered. "Target the human ship and fire warning shots." The Dominator's plasma cannons rotated slowly to track the interceptor, but the human ship was moving too fast and changing direction too quickly. The massive weapon systems had been designed to engage other large ships that moved unpredictable. Patterns. Bright blue plasma bolts erupted from the Dominator's weapons, but they all missed their target by hundreds of meters. The interceptor continued its curving path around the Imperial ship, moving in 3 dimensions instead of the flat plane that most species used for space combat. "Sir," the Dominator's tactical officer reported, "the human ship is using the full sphere of space for maneuvering. Our targeting computers cannot predict their movement pattern." Captain Zolthek had never encountered this problem before. Every species the Empire had fought used standard naval tactics, treating space combat like ancient sea battles with ships moving in formation on a flat surface. But the humans were moving up, down, and around in ways that made targeting nearly impossible. Hughes watched the plasma bolts streak past his ship on the main screen. "Rick, return fire. Show them what precision looks like." Rick Davis had been tracking the Dominator since the engagement began, studying its movement patterns and defensive systems. Unlike the massive Imperial weapons, the interceptor's guns was small and fast, designed for accuracy rather than raw power. "Firing," Rick announced calmly. Twin beams of concentrated plasma lanced out from the interceptor, moving at nearly the speed of light. The shots were much smaller than the Imperial weapons, but they struck the Dominator with surgical precision. One beam penetrated a gap in the ship's energy shields and destroyed a secondary weapon mount. The second beam overloaded a sensor array, leaving a section of the dreadnought temporarily blind. Captain Zolthek felt his ship shudder as the human weapons found their mark. Damage report. Minor damage to weapons and sensors, the engineering officer replied. But sir, how did they penetrate our shields so easily? Zolthek had no answer. Imperial shields were designed to deflect large, powerful energy beams. The small, focused shots from the human ship seemed to slip through the defensive grid like needles through cloth. The interceptor completed its first attack run and curved away from the Dominator, staying well outside the range of the Imperial ships. Heavy weapons. Hughes studied the tactical display, noting where his shots had been most effective. Amy, bring us around for another pass. Rick, target their main sensor dome this time. The human ship dove below the Dominator's firing arc, then climbed sharply to attack from an unexpected angle. The Imperial gunners tried desperately to track the fast-moving target, but their weapons were simply too slow and clumsy to keep up. Rick's second attack destroyed the dreadnought's primary targeting system, leaving the massive ship nearly blind. Without accurate sensors, the Dominator's weapons fired wildly into empty space, never coming close to hitting the elusive interceptor. On the bridge of the Eternal Glory, Admiral Cuthfer watched the engagement with growing alarm. His most experienced ship captain was being systematically dismantled by a vessel 1/10 the size of an Imperial shuttle. Sir, Commander Vorthek reported, the Dominator has lost primary sensors, 3 weapon mounts, and 2 shield generators. Captain Zolthek is requesting permission to withdraw. Cuthfer's golden eyes blazed with fury. Absolutely not. Signal 2 more ships to join the engagement. Surround the human vessel and destroy it. The dreadnought's Crusher and Iron Fist moved forward to support the Dominator. Now the interceptor faced 3 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. The Imperial ships tried to form a triangle around the human vessel, cutting off its escape routes. Hughes smiled as he watched the new ships approach. They still do not understand, do they? Amy, pattern Omega-12. Rick, prepare for rapid-fire engagement. The interceptor suddenly accelerated straight up from the plane of battle, climbing rapidly away from all 3 Imperial ships. The Zephyrian captains expected the human ship to try to escape, but instead it reached the top of its climb and dove back down toward them at maximum speed. What followed was unlike anything in Imperial military experience. The human ship moved through the space between the 3 dreadnoughts like a dancer, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Its weapons fired constantly, each shot precisely aimed at critical systems. Within 20 minutes, the Crusher had lost all of its main weapons and was drifting helplessly. The Iron Fist was blind and nearly powerless, its crew struggling to restore basic systems. The Dominator was barely functional, with fires burning in multiple sections. The interceptor emerged from the engagement without a scratch on its hull. Hughes had used the Imperial ship's own size against them, hiding in their sensor shadows and exploiting the gaps in their overlapping fire patterns. Captain, Amy reported, all 3 enemy vessels are effectively disabled. They still have life support and basic propulsion, but no combat capability. Hughes opened a communication channel to Admiral Cuthfer. Admiral, your ships fought bravely, but I think we have demonstrated some important differences in our tactical approaches. Cuthfer stared at the human captain in shock. 3 of his most powerful warships had been defeated by a single small vessel, and the human crew looked completely relaxed about it. How? Cuthfer asked simply. Hughes considered his answer carefully. Admiral, your ships are built like fortresses. They are impressive and powerful, but they fight the way fortresses fight. We learned long ago that mobility and precision often defeat raw strength. The Admiral looked at his tactical display, which showed 3 of his dreadnoughts drifting powerless in space. Captain Hughes, what do you want from us? Nothing, Admiral, Hughes replied. This was your demonstration, remember? You wanted to show the galaxy your naval might. We simply wanted to show you ours. Kethver realized that the humans had been teaching rather than fighting. Every attack had been precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. They could have killed thousands of Imperial soldiers, but they had chosen mercy instead. Will you accept our surrender? Kethver asked. Quietly, Hughes shook his head. Admiral, we did not come here to conquer anyone. We came here to learn about our new neighbors and perhaps teach them something about us. On the tactical display, 4 more Imperial dreadnoughts were moving forward to join the battle. But Kethver was beginning to understand that sending more ships would only result in more disabled vessels and more humiliation for the Empire. The human captain had made his point clearly. Size and firepower were not everything in space combat. Sometimes intelligence and skill mattered more than brute force. Captain Hughes, Kethver said slowly, perhaps we should discuss this situation more carefully. Admiral Kethver stared at his tactical display in complete silence. 8 of his 12 dreadnoughts now floated powerless in space, their crews working frantically to restore basic systems. The human ship interceptor hovered nearby, undamaged, and ready for further combat. 4 hours had passed since the demonstration began. In that time, Captain Hughes had systematically disabled 2/3 of the Imperial fleet, without losing a single crew member or suffering any meaningful damage to his ship. It was the most complete military defeat in Zephyrian history. Commander. Vorthik approached the Admiral with another damage report. The young officer's bright blue skin had turned pale with shock, and his hands trembled as he read from his data tablet. Admiral, Vorthik said quietly, the Annihilator and the World Breaker have both lost main power. The Starfire is dead in space with no propulsion or weapons. The Thunder of Empire is requesting immediate assistance with reactor containment. Kethver listened to the list of disabled ships without expression. Each name represented centuries of Imperial engineering and the pride of the Zephyrian military. Now they were nothing more than expensive pieces of floating metal. What about our remaining ships? Kethver asked. Vorthik checked his tablet again. The Destiny, Phoenix, Immortal, and Divine Wind are still fully operational. Their captains are requesting orders. The Admiral looked at the 4 remaining dreadnoughts on his display. They maintained formation at the edge of the battle zone, their crews watching the human frigate with a mixture of fear and respect. Kethver had been a warrior for over 60 years. He had conquered star systems and destroyed entire fleets in service to the Empire. But he had never faced an enemy like this. The humans fought with the intelligence and precision that made Imperial firepower meaningless. Signal all ships to stand down, Kethver ordered. No further hostile actions. Vorthik looked shocked. Sir, we still have 4 operational dreadnoughts. Surely we can overwhelm 1 small human ship. The Admiral turned to face his young tactical officer. Commander, look at your display. 8 of our most powerful warships have been defeated by a single enemy vessel. Do you really think adding 4 more ships will change the outcome? Vorthik studied the tactical situation more carefully. The human ship had used the Imperial vessel's own size and formation against them. More ships would only provide more targets for the incredibly precise human weapons. I understand, Admiral, Vorthik said finally. Kethver activated his communication system and opened a channel to Captain Hughes. The human officer appeared on the main screen looking as calm and relaxed as he had 4 hours earlier. Captain Hughes, Kethver began, I formally request a cessation of hostilities. The Imperial fleet withdraws its challenge. Hughes nodded respectfully. Acknowledged, Admiral. The demonstration is complete. The simple statement hung in the air between them. Hughes did not gloat over his victory or demand surrender terms. He simply accepted the end of combat with professional courtesy. Captain, Kethver continued, I must ask you a question. Your ship could have destroyed my entire fleet, could it not? Hughes considered his answer carefully. Yes, Admiral. The interceptor carries enough firepower to eliminate all of your vessels, but that was never our intention. Then why did you show mercy? Kethver asked. Because Hughes explained, this was supposed to be a demonstration of naval might, not a massacre. You wanted to show the galaxy that resistance to your empire was pointless. We wanted to show you that cooperation might be more valuable than conquest. Kethver felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. For centuries, the Zephyrian Empire had expanded through intimidation and overwhelming force. They had never encountered a species that possessed superior military capability, but chose to exercise restraint. "What do you want from us?" the Admiral asked. Hughes smiled slightly. "Admiral, we want to learn about your people and your empire. We want to understand your culture, your technology, and your goals. And perhaps we can share some of our own knowledge with you." The concept was foreign to Kethver. In his experience, superior military force always led to demands for tribute, territory, or subjugation. But the humans seemed genuinely interested. "In peaceful contact, you do not wish to conquer the Empire?" Kethver asked. "Not at all," Hughes replied. "Conquest creates enemies and destroys knowledge. Cooperation creates allies and advances everyone." Vorthik leaned close to the Admiral and whispered urgently, "Sir, this could be a trick. They may be trying to lower our defenses before launching a larger attack." Kethver considered this possibility but dismissed it quickly. The humans had already demonstrated that they could destroy the Imperial fleet whenever they chose. They had no need for tricks or deception. "Captain Hughes," Kethver said, "would you be willing to meet in person to discuss this situation further?" Hughes consulted with someone off-screen, then nodded. "Admiral, I would be honored to meet with you. Perhaps we can find a way forward that benefits both our peoples." Within an hour, a small shuttle had transferred Admiral Kethver and Commander Vorthik to the human ship. The interceptor's docking bay was clean and efficient, with none of the ceremonial decorations that filled Imperial vessels. Captain Hughes met them at the airlock with a small honor guard. The human captain was shorter than Kethver had expected, but his presence filled the room with quiet confidence. "Welcome aboard the interceptor, Admiral," Hughes said. "I hope you find our ship interesting." Kethver did find it interesting. Everything about the human vessel spoke of efficiency and practical design. The corridors were narrow but well lit, the equipment was compact but obviously high quality, and the crew moved with purpose and professionalism. Hughes led them to the ship's conference room, where Lieutenant Commander Foster and Chief Davis were waiting with detailed tactical analyses of the recent engagement. "Admiral," Hughes began, "I want you to understand what happened today. This was not a demonstration of human superiority. This was a lesson in different approaches to warfare." Amy Foster activated a holographic display showing the battle from multiple angles. "Your ships are built for traditional naval combat," she explained. "Maximum firepower, heavy armor, intimidating appearance. For thousands of years, that approach has probably worked well against other species." She switched the display to show the interceptor's attack patterns. "But we learned to fight differently. Our ships are built for speed, precision, and adaptability. We use the entire three-dimensional battlefield, not just a flat plane." Chief Davis added his own analysis. "Your weapons are incredibly powerful, Admiral, but they are designed to destroy large targets at long range. Our weapons are smaller and faster, designed to exploit weaknesses in enemy defenses." Kethver studied the tactical displays with growing understanding. "You are saying that our entire military doctrine is obsolete?" Hughes shook his head. "Not obsolete, Admiral. Different. Your approach works well for conquest and intimidation. Our approach works well for defense and precision strikes. Both have their place in the galaxy." The Admiral felt his worldview shifting again. "What are you proposing, Captain?" "Partnership," Hughes said simply. "The Empire has incredible engineering capabilities and vast resources. Humanity has tactical innovation and adaptive strategies. Together, we could accomplish things that neither of us could achieve alone." Vorthik spoke for the first time since boarding the human ship. "What about Imperial expansion?" "The Empire has always grown through conquest." Amy Foster answered that question. Commander, there are billions of empty worlds in this galaxy. There are ancient mysteries to solve, new technologies to develop, and unknown dangers to face. Expansion does not have to mean conquest. Kethver considered everything he had learned. The humans had defeated his fleet with ease, but they offered friendship instead of demanding surrender. They possessed advanced technology, but they wanted to share knowledge rather than hoard it. Captain Hughes, the Admiral said finally, I believe the Emperor would be very interested in meeting with your leaders. Perhaps we can arrange more formal discussions between our governments, Hughes smiled broadly. Admiral, I think that would be an excellent start. As the meeting continued, both species began to understand that they had found something rare in the galaxy, potential allies who could learn from each other. The Zephyrian Empire would continue to exist, but it would never be the same. Back on the bridge of the Eternal Glory, Kethver sent a message to the Imperial capital. He reported that humanity was a species worthy of respect and cooperation, not conquest, and in a small conference room aboard the Interceptor, the foundation was laid for a friendship that would change the galaxy forever. The demonstration was complete. But the real work was just beginning.